want to cover a topic today that I feel is just fundamental to people in the stages of awakening. And I feel too many people are stirring up the game they're playing for their own selves, and they're making it harder. Our process of awakening, which is remembering itself, who it is behind our eye, asking the questions, we're stirring up this game for ourselves. We're increasing the complexity of the actual answer by getting lost in the questions, and by us creating these questions, we're in turn creating problems. And as I tell everyone, it's okay to enjoy and get lost in those questions, but not to let them consume you. I have many friends going through their awakened stages, and some of them are still under the flirtatious idea that they awakened fully. But these are the people who are still playing the government games and playing the side games. Like I said, all of these alternatives are side avenues, little side streets actually stopping you from going down the one road that leads you back to yourself. And this is the great discovery, or the great awakening, is realizing yourself beyond the skin. We ask who we are all the time, and we can't give a definite answer. What you'll still find is the definite answer we're giving still isn't the answer. It still isn't it. It's simply our human expression of what we feel is the answer. But words and books and stuff will never be the answer. Will never bring justification to what this energy is. Just as Alan Watts says, there's one energy, there is no name for it whatsoever. And throughout history, we will try and beat our brains in giving this it a name. We've given it the name God. God is the most common name for this energy of consciousness. And it's portrayed, if you ask anybody where God is at, they will say it's outside of them. And when you're individually trying to pursue and find yourself, find who you are, as I said, along the way you stumble across all these distractions that stop you from getting to the actual root. The actual answer, which is yourself. So in turn, you're subconsciously, unawareingly prolonging and delaying your own awakening. Unintentionally. By getting lost in the very game. By creating more questions and stirring up the game for your own self. Just as many people in the stages of awakening start working themselves into a frenzy, start worrying themselves, because when you start awakening more to who it is behind the skin, behind your eyes, you see that the ego starts clenching tight and panicking. The ego starts becoming very scared indeed, because you're slowly peeling back the veil that's hiding that ego. And when you peel back the veil, you're exposing that there is no separate self. There is no you. And the more persistently you try and find yourself, the one I'm looking at right now, separate from the universe, you will never find it. And you will drive yourself insane until you either, 1, reach the point of insanity and give up, or 2, reach the great discovery. That it is you. You stop playing the game. You at last admit to yourself who you are. And nobody can do your inner work for you. Only you know what you know. Only you will admit to yourself your deepest fears, and what you subconsciously already know. So whether you want to admit it out loud or admit it to yourself, you know you're not the you think you are. And that's why we're all born with something greater than ourselves that we know. We're playing the game of pretending. Behind the mask, behind the veil, we're getting lost in our own creation. And this is something I want to stress to many of my friends in their awakening stages. So many of them are saying we need to reach this grand awakening of knowledge to where we're back to the highest state of knowing who we are. We're back to this God-like knowledge throughout everyone. And in turn, we will all turn into energy, as some people say, or we will beat this form behind the skin, because so many people are creating the idea in their minds, and remember, it's all in your mind, that this skin is a trap, that you were imprisoned in the skin. This is meant to be a prison or a punishment to some people. And I want to tell people that this is nothing but an idea inside of your mind. You're making it a prison. You're creating it. You are. And I say this all the time, and nobody can give me a definite answer, but how else do you experience formless energy? I tell this all the time. The light you're taking in is nothing but an electromagnetic radiation wave. What we're taking in is nothing but frequencies, waves, patterns. How else do you experience energy but through a veil? So, through creation is reincarnation. You trying to beat reincarnation shows you do not know who you are behind the central self. You're still under the idea that you are this ego. And as I said, the ego clenches tight when you slowly start peeling layers back. When you slowly start uncovering the lies and the flaws behind religion. It's comforting faith, but some people need the actual truth. They don't want to pretend. They want to know. And so when you're individually seeking this, you will drive yourself insane. It helps to have a guru. When you come to a guru, a shaman, or whoever you will, a teacher who knows who you are beyond the skin, who you are truly, he's going to stir up the game for you just as you're doing for yourself. He's going to have you persistently pursuing what you're thinking is correct. If you think you're not God and it's something outside of you, the guru is going to stir up the game for you to make it insane, to make it crazy, to have you searching every single place but yourself, to have you finally realize you're doing something insane and you're not finding it. And when the guru feels you've paid enough, you've searched enough, you've driven yourself mad enough, he'll look at you and say, "You still don't get it? You've searched everywhere out but in. You're still not getting to the root of what is asking the question. You're pursuing outside of yourself and trying to answer the question, but you're not getting to the root of who's asking the question." There is no beating reincarnation. It's the self, and it always will be the self. All is one collective consciousness. We're all one collective consciousness through energy. And behind the veils, we're granted the illusion, the idea of separateness. Because if anyone right now, and as I said, some may not admit this to themselves, but for you reciting what I'm saying in your head right now, you'll be able to admit to yourself, this would be horrifying. But say you wake up and you wouldn't find not one human being on any street corner, anywhere at all, and you were the last human being in existence, and this is what you discovered one morning you wake up. There is not one other being in existence. You are the only one. This would terrify you. Literally think about it. You travel from city to city to city to city to city, not one being in existence but you. Not one person to talk to, one person to hear. You're aware of yourself and nothing else. So what would you do? It's very obvious. In the skin, you may create imaginary friends, ideas, characters to play with, to get lost in. So if you were the Supreme Self, because remember, when we die, we go back to remembering it. That we are it, the entire universe. It is not he nor she. The he and the she is the ego, and the ego seeks to control the game. So there's two things that the ego fears the most. The most is death and reincarnation, because these are the two principles that will expose the ego and show it that it's not who you are. The The ego looks at death as the end. And of course the ego doesn't want to stop playing the game, because the ego is thinking that you are the body and nothing more, nothing less. So when you die, this entire creation and everything is gone forever. And this is why the ego is terrified of death, because it associates it with the end. But it's only the end when you're living as the body, which Alan Watts says is the voluntary, what you're voluntarily and consciously aware of that you're doing. When I move my hand to pick up this pen, I am telling my brain to pick up this pen, so that is voluntarily me doing it. But as I'm speaking right now, I am not telling my heart to beat, yet it is beating. So the two are still me. I'm consciously aware I'm picking up the pen, unconsciously aware I'm beating my heart, but which one is me? They're both me. So just because you're not aware of what action you are doing, you're it. You're the unconscious and the subconscious, or the subconscious and conscious. Just because you're not aware doesn't mean you're not conscious, alive. Even when you sleep, you're still aware. You're just not aware of your own body. You're just not aware of yourself in the skin, in the body when you sleep. You're still alive, you're still conscious. But this is why many people, when it gets nighttime or close to go to sleep, this is when people say, well, my mind comes to life. I think of the most extraordinary things. I think of the most magnificent things at nighttime, or when it's time for bed. And why is this? Why does everyone's brain come to life when it's time for night? It's very simple, because we associate sleep with death. And so when you go to sleep every night, you're uncertain if you will wake tomorrow. Not saying that's what everyone thinks about, but subconsciously, it's never guaranteed you will awaken in this conscious body of yourself the next day. So we associate each time we're shutting our eyes with death as the last time we're shutting our eyes. And so the deepest thoughts that we put off come to life. Everything we're putting off because we're getting lost in the game day after day by work and friends and going here or to parties, we're putting off all the deep questions, so at night they all come to life, and there's nowhere to run, so you're facing them. And taking DMT is the same thing. DMT shows there is nowhere to run, there's nothing to grab onto. You have no control. The ego seeks to control and grab onto. Control. DMT strips you from this ego and shows you, just like Alan Watts says, deceiving a child with an empty fist. That's what DMT is. You're deceiving a child with an empty fist. You get taken down this rabbit hole through the mill, driving yourself crazy, waiting for this magnificent answer to be revealed to you, only to find there's nothing there. And it's in this moment, when you're experiencing the breakthrough of DMT, that the ego panics. You're terrified. I personally cried. You can't help it. All you've ever known is the body. The mirror image, that's all you've ever known yourself as. And finding out everything you once knew was a lie can be shaking, scary. But again, you're identifying with the temporary, the finite. Before I was born in any form or shape, I was. I didn't just appear out of nowhere. Where I came from is what I am. And I am the whole picture. I am that I am. Just as you are. We all are. We're terrified of dying and going nowhere, but you came from somewhere. That's what we don't remember. We forget. You came from somewhere, so in turn there is no such thing as non-existence. There's no place as non-existence. That's a fantasy. It's an illusion. It's an ego-filled illusion. A lot of the things that we're terrified of are simply human constructs, ego constructs. And as I said, because the ego is terrified, we associate death and reincarnation with the end of the game. And the end of the game is you living with the understanding that you're the body and nothing more. And so when you're just identifying as the body, you're identifying as the micro, as the one that's being tricked, the one that's being rused and fooled. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's a game. We're playing. Just as I said, and I want to repeat this because I don't feel many people have thought about this fully. Let's just say, whether you agree with me or not, let's just say you are this idea, whatever idea you have of God, whatever your unique idea is of God, right? Let's just say you die and you find out this is you. You're returned to yourself. You've returned to this being of God, this energy, infinite, not he nor she, but this energy, this creative energy that's consciously aware of its own self. And so what it does is it creates. It creates many characters, masks, to hide behind that aren't consciously aware that they are the only one in existence, so they can get lost and have fun. To know it's just you is insanity. And so we're playing the game with our lower being selves. We only make the lower being or lower conscious self a bad thing. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to explore and question and ponder and get lost in. And it feels so real to the point that you call it reality. Without a doubt, this is real because you can feel it and touch it and taste it and smell it but it's all brain sensory, brain waves. That's it. There is no beating the game because it is you. I tell this to people all the time. Even through suicide, suicide takes out the you that is the ego in the body. You're returning to yourself as it. As when we die, we're returning to ourselves. We're converging back to the whole, back to one, back to this energy of God which knows its own existence. And so it's going to have you birth out again with you having no recollection that you've ever been birthed. And so when you're born, you're going to feel you have never been born before. You're going to open your eyes and naturally ask, where the hell am I? What the hell is this? How did I get here? I didn't sign up for this. And there's the ironic part of it. No one asked to be birthed here, so how are you going to beat reincarnation when you had no control of your birthing here? You have no remembrance of you choosing to be birthed here. So how do you beat reincarnation? The idea of beating the universe, beating the game of creation, beating the it, is the idea of the ego. You're fighting yourself, and it also shows you don't truly know who you are. Because you'd see there's nothing to fear, absolutely at all. We wish to be a part of God, we wish to be infinite, and you are just that. You're every single thing. You're it. What is there to fear? Fundamentally, what? You're it. Every single thing you've ever prayed to and wished for and hoped for, you're already it. It's only scary to the ego when you cling to the ego. When you identify as the ego, you're identifying as the victim. The mortal victim of, poor me, life isn't fair, and this is a harsh game, a trick, and it's not fair. I didn't ask for this. This is a trap. This is a prison. This is blah, 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 blah. You're making it that. You. And by you sitting here saying, well, this isn't fair. He did me dirty. She did me dirty. God doesn't care about me anymore, and God isn't here. You're playing the game with your character. You're playing the game of getting lost in the avatar. You reach the point of saying, well, God doesn't care about me. God doesn't even hear. When you don't know who it is behind your eyes. You don't know who the self is. And so it feels frustrating. It feels like insanity. And that's why I said it can help when you have a guru that can further push you into your insane habits. Because he's going to stir up your insane habits so much to the point that you realize this is not it. Just like trying to beat the game of reincarnation. It's an illusion, a fallacy. It does not exist. You don't beat the game. You're creating this. It's all you. You've created all of this. You're not trapped. You did this to yourself. The good and the bad, you're doing all of it. You're shining the sun. You're rotating the moon. You're doing all of it. Just as I said, I'm not telling my heart to beat right now, and it's doing it, unconsciously doing it. But it's me. There is no separation from the voluntary and involuntary. What you're consciously aware you're doing and unconsciously aware you're doing. The two are one and the same because you are it. You're the micro and you're the macro. And it's as above, so below, because the principles that apply to the micro apply to the macro. And if it applies to the macro, it applies to the micro. The two are one and the same. So the principles, the fundamentals, they don't change. If there is a code to creation to the micro, there is a code to creation to the macro. And this is why I'm so certain on my teaching. Concave Earth. It's everything we've been taught backwards, inside out. And if you think about it and break down every single thing, everything we know is backwards. God isn't inside us, it's outside us. Space isn't inner, it's outer. You're not inside the universe, you're outside the universe. You're far gone. Source is lost. And as I said, from micro to macro, when you take that model up there with the two split globe hemispheres, and then you have that central ball there, that central ball is your pineal gland, and those two hemispheres are the two hemispheres to your brain and the eyes. The code to creation doesn't change. And I know not all agree with this idea of what I speak on, and that's fine. And I know that going against the grain as far as the earth and the universe and all this is gonna lose me viewers, lose me people, but I stick to what I believe in. I know it's true. Can't be unproven. But what I'm trying to do is match spirituality to the science behind the universe as this understanding, because it all fits together perfectly. I have never once been stumped with this model, not one time. When things fall together as puzzle pieces, they fit. Naturally fit, you don't have to force them. And the truth is always revealed, always unraveled, no matter how many years of hidden, buried, or burning, or whatever, trying to get rid of the truth, it always comes back. Because remember, we're in a fractal universe that's repeating itself. So you will, in turn, remember yourself eventually. The Buddha is simply the man who awakened. We're all Buddha. The Buddha is based on one man, but the Buddha is a term of the remembrance of the consciousness of who we are. That's what the Buddha is. The Buddha is the man who awakened from the illusion, from the dream. And that's why we're all on our individual paths for self-discovery. We're soul-searching, trying to find ourselves naturally. We never stop to think, well, what put me in this natural pursuit? Why am I asking the questions? You ask the questions because everything you're asking you are. You're getting lost in your own self, in your own game. It's amazing to me how there's, as I said, this is simply just an ego construct, a construct of the lower conscious self of us, but we seek to control. We seek to take control of the world, of the universe, and this is what DMT strips that ego of, is it shows that you have no control. You either fight the DMT and you have a horrible trip, or you lay back and you accept it and let it show you yourself beyond the skin. Because like I say to everybody, if you don't face yourself now, you will on your deathbed. In the moment of it coming your time, you will face yourself. And every question you've ever put off, just as I said, comes to life when you go to sleep, will come to life in that time. And it will be then that you're just now realizing, this isn't who I am. We're putting off our own selves. We're prolonging our own selves, our own awakening. We are unawareingly delaying our own awakening. And as I said, it's by simply stirring up the game and getting so lost in it through questions. And the more questions we raise, the more avenues we go down, the further we get to the answer. The more we think we're getting to the answer. If I can just know about science, and then about physics, and then about astrology, and then about math, and then about English, and about language and psychology, etc., 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 etc. If I can just swallow every single book, I will have thought on God's level. I will be on God's level of knowledge. I will know all. And again, this is a habit of insanity, one that I did myself for years. I have over 2 to 3 notebooks filled with pages of notes from front to back, and that is the very definition of overcomplicating the situation, overcomplicating the answer. You feel you have to study, read, get lost in every single avenue of knowledge that you can, and you might, just might, unlock this crown chakra, this grand awakening that everyone's talking about, the third eye. This was my premise on it. This is what I thought. If I could just think hard enough. And you know what they say? Be careful to the man who gets everything he wanted. Because you know what he says after he got everything he wanted. Okay, now what? Be careful that you don't disappoint your own self when you think you're if only I can get the new car, the new shoes, the new this, the new that, whatever you think is your happiness. Be careful to the people who think, if I can just get this, because it's the people who get everything they want that they see it's not even close to what you wanted. If I can just get that. As I'm trying to tell people, basically, there is no, and this is for people who are ready. For people who are ready, they will slowly accept and hear. Not everyone needs this knowledge. Not everyone sees this knowledge as liberation. To some, this knowledge ruins it. This knowledge ruins life. It's a matter of perspective. So those who seek it, those who beat their brains in hard enough and want it, need it. Not everyone needs to experience the awakening, but the answer behind it all is there is no, and not everyone wants to hear this, but there is no separate self. There is no separate ego, no separate individual, period. There is no individualism at all. And this is something I fought with one of my best friends about while we were both going through our DMT stages. I was telling him, I saw there is no individual. None. They fought it and fought it and fought it and said, I don't believe you. That's not true. It can't be true. No, no, no. And when they finally went into their breakthrough of DMT, they said, my gosh, you're right. I wasn't me. I was everything. And I said, alas, you get it. You're not the you think you are. You're everything coming to life at one time. Although you're not consciously aware of everything at one time, you're every single thing at one time. We're just the projected dream of this one collective consciousness. We're the projected dream in a solid form, in matter. Getting lost in our own creation of avatars, because like I said, for you to know that you're the only one in existence forever and ever and ever, you are the supreme head God, is insanity. You wouldn't know what to do with yourself. And it's for the very same reason that we as humans create video games and watch movies and TV shows, and we take on these roles. We watch TV shows and movies and we take on the roles that we're watching. You like a TV show because you're taking on the role of the character. You're getting lost in the very character just as God is getting lost in you. It's entertainment. It's fun. It's not meant to be anything negative but what you make it, what you've created, the ideas in your head. It's all in your head. And even me. I don't mean to have people stuck relying on me as well. I'm not trying to be a church. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a church keeps you coming back for the answers. A true guru, a true healer will show you that everything I know, you know. It's all in you already. You just simply have to remember. It's you. There's no difference from the pupil and the guru other than he knows. He's no better than. He's simply trying to allow you, lead you the way to yourself, inside, and only you can do your inner work. But he knows, it must be you. The pupil has to want it. Not only be ready, but want it. You have to have suffered enough. You have to have endured enough insanity, enough pain. Enough to where you say, I'm tired of playing the game. I'm done. I'm fed up. I'm tired of playing the game. I want the answer. I want the answer. What is God? Who is God? Is God real? What is life and death? This is exactly what happened to me. After years and years and years and years of overcomplicating and stirring up my own game. And I've told people a million times, I'm not afraid to admit it, but if it wasn't for DMT, I would have never made the connection that it was myself. Ever. Because I was logic, 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 and if you cannot prove it, it's not true. And this is why most scientists are led into atheism. Because logic is tricking you. The common sense that's hooked into your brain is rigged with the ego. So when you look in the mirror, you say, of course this is me and nothing else. I couldn't be anything but this. How could I be? This is me. I'm positive. This is me. And that's your common sense talking to your ego. And it's your ego that's telling you, this is me. The ego is your jester, is your joker. It's fooling you. It's taking you for a nice ride. But what we're doing is we're creating, this is my belief, there is an infinite amount of realms, maybe similar or different to this one. Like I said, maybe after this one we go to a realm where we walk upside down and the sky is backwards, or things are slightly different, but I do believe that there's an infinite amount of realms, and it is us as these avatars coming back again and again and again, only, like I said, we have no knowledge that we've ever been birthed before. And we're born getting lost in the very game of the Supreme Head, this energy that we're calling God. Because just like I said, if you were it, you would not sit around and do nothing. You would create and create these realities that felt so real to you. They had you getting lost, emotionally invested, crying, terrified of death because you felt this was the end. Absolutely terrified of death. But it's only you getting lost, pretending. And it feels so absolute real to you. This experience, just like Alan Watts says, this experience we're having is exactly what it is to be it. This is the experience. You're born naturally having questions because you are trying to remember. It's do you ask the right questions is really it. What will lead you to your awakening? Are you asking the right questions? And what's happening with schools and indoctrination and all these things is they're trying to keep the mass of people stuck into the lower conscious identity, which means everyone's stuck in the ego, and they're feeling as if there is a authoritarian figure outside the universe that's controlling things, alpha outside the universe. And so we're being forced to forget who we are through indoctrination, schooling that's supposed to be teaching us, but as I said, they're not teaching us anything of substantial importance. Nothing about a value of who self is, or anything that's meaningful. So many kids finish school saying, when am I going to use this again? What good did this do me? Well, that's just it. It didn't help you. It taught you how to sit still and conform, and when you're bad, you misbehave, or you don't fit in with society, you get cast away. That's what it teaches you. It teaches you to sit still and not ask questions, and don't question the teacher. Do not think for yourself. You take your notes, and you sit there, and you stay quiet. And if you don't stay quiet, you get sent out. You're a troubled child. You don't fit in here. You go somewhere with the troubled kids who have the questions, who are curious, who want to challenge. A troubled child isn't just a disruptive child. Troubled child to the system is one that asks questions, one that's aware of what he's being taught, and is actually taking it in for himself instead of just jotting his notes on a paper. But all roads lead you back to the self. That's the inevitability of it. That is the undeniable truth. All roads will lead you straight in back to yourself. It's a matter of whether you follow them and whether you listen to the signs of the universe or not. Because as I said, the signs of the universe are simply signs from your higher self. Because you are the universe. You are the works. You are the work of the cosmos, of the sun and the moon. You're everything. You are the universe. And so by you proposing the idea at all that you're going to beat the game, escape the game, is your understanding is poor of who you are. And there's no shame in that, but there's nothing to beat. What are you trying to beat? It's you. You're already it. After you die here, you will create another realm to get lost in, and it'll felt in that realm you've never been born again, just as it did in this one. So what are you beating? What are you escaping? You're fighting your own self. You're not realizing that you will come back to yourself again and again and again, whether you're alive here or in another place. You're simply becoming aware that it is you, that you're it. These mind states of heaven and hell are human constructs. They're states of mind. They are not actual physical places that will actually take you anywhere. Exactly. Just like Alan Watts says, trying to get one up on the universe. And as long as you're trying to get one up on the universe, you're going to never get to the final answer. Personally, I'm not sure. Animals are still a reflection of us. Animals are still the conscious I am. However, animals are a little, I'd say, of a lower consciousness than a human for a few reasons. They're not self-aware that they're aware, and two, they're not aware of time. So part of me thinks part of me personally doesn't think we birth into animals. Because as I say, I believe animals still have a spirit. They are us. They are reflections of us, you know. They shouldn't be murdered, killed, as they are, but we wouldn't reincarnate or birth ourselves as this God, supreme being. Remember, that's who we are. We're creating ourselves. We wouldn't create ourselves as an animal, unaware of time and unaware, unable to question, to ask, to get lost and have fun and experience. An animal is not asking questions. An animal is not self-aware. An animal is not aware of time. Animals don't have an awareness of time. They're not even aware that they will die. And I actually almost cried. I watched the saddest video and I was so upset about this, but on YouTube they actually taught a gorilla that it would die. To me, that's cruel, that's evil. Why would you do that to an animal? I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And the gorilla was sad and depressed afterwards. And the gorilla even said, life is a big trick, a joke, a game. It's depressed. Why would you do that to an animal? They're unaware for a reason. But that's not my idea. My opinion is that's not what the Supreme Self would birth himself into. Like, animals are here for us, for the universe. They sustain the universe. They sustain us. They help us. I know we're not supposed to eat them, but they're meant for us. I mean, we're supposed to play with them, pet them, love them. They're a part of us. They're our reflections. But I don't think we would birth ourselves into something that couldn't ask, because a part of the game is getting lost in it. And getting lost in it is creating the questions, because as I said, when you create the questions, you create the problems. And so you're stirring up the game for your own self. This is the very nature of you getting lost in your own self, in your own game, by asking the questions and pondering the possibilities and taking all the notes in the world and reading all the books. It's you simply just stirring up the game for yourself. Yeah, they may be self-aware. It's nothing I can prove. That's just my personal opinion. I still love and appreciate animals, though. Personally, I'm an animal fiend. I love animals. Love animals. But one thing I wanted to stress in this video is, for the people who are panicked, for the people who are worried, for the people who are in a frenzy, in their awakening stages, let it go. You have nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be scared of. You're fighting your own self, literally. Not all people will make sense of that. But you're literally fighting your own self in the game. You're battling your own mind. As I said, absolutely nothing to be afraid of. Everything that you pray for and hope for and wish for and ever wanted, you are. You're it. Your magnificent illusion of what heaven would be like forever on after and all that, you're already it. You're already there. You're it, you're everything, you're all of it, in one. The point here is not to do anything. And this is where the great panic comes in, because some of us are under the premise that we must obtain this Godhead knowledge, we must reach the crown chakra before something happens, or before the falling out of man, or before the dark ages, or I'm just using terms that I'm seeing on Facebook. We need to reach this 5D consciousness before this happens, or we need to reach this godly consciousness or the masses will be wiped out, or we need to do this before this happens. And we're in this great frenzy. And what you're not realizing is you don't need to do absolutely anything. At all. The idea and the fallacy that you have to do anything at all is you fighting yourself. You're stirring yourself up. You're stirring yourself and working yourself up for nothing. Oh God, I need to reach 5D. I need to see in 5D. Oh God, I need to obtain godly conscious knowledge. And like I said, what happens once you obtain that? Be careful for the man who got everything he wanted. Because what he says once he got it all was, now what? Once you get this idea of what you think you're supposed to reach, that's all it is. Now what? What do you do now? What do you do forever on after knowing that you are God, that you are it, that you're infinite, you're it. You're the only one in existence beyond these masks that we're hiding behind. That's what you find. There is nothing to do because you are it. So the it that is something to do is creating it. It is you. It is me. We're the creation. We're the result. Absolutely, there's nothing to hold on to. There's nothing to hold on to because you had no control. You had no say-so in being birthed here because you have no control. Only the ego seeks to control and seeks to beat the game, beat the universe, beat reincarnation. These ideas are the ego speaking. DMT would blow any one of those ideas in your mind out of the water. Gone. Because you'd see, one, there's nothing to hold on to, so you're in a panic for nothing. And two, every idea in your mind is a human construct. Unimportant, doesn't exist, not even real. When you die, every thought that you had, every fear that you have, every human created fear that you had is gone. Poof. Gone. You will never have to face those, live through those. They're gone. And that's one trade-off with the understanding of knowing, is realizing that there is no individual self, and there is no individual ego. And so, in turn, you have to accept that memory is lost. Because as I said, you don't birth yourself as the Godhead knowing that you're it and the only one in existence behind all the masks. Because then you're not getting lost in the game. I'm looking at everybody and I'm saying, oh, that's me and that's me and that's me and this is boring, this sucks, this is hell, I'm trapped here. These are all me. I'm still the only one in existence. I'm panicking, like I need some interaction. I need someone other than me. And as I said, the energy is not he nor she. But it is aware of its own self, that it is the only one. And so creating male, female, he, she, avatar after avatar, you're getting lost in the game. You're forgetting. It feels as if you've never been birthed before. This feels magnificently real. So much so, you're emotionally invested. You're terrified. No one said we had to feel it all. But again, it's the ego that clings, that cringes. Trying to grab onto something. And for what? For what? What are you afraid of? What are you running from? Why don't you want to know? It's true, and all those are human constructs, meaning they're human-created fantasies, illusions, ideas that we worry ourselves with day in and day out when it's not even a possibility. There always has been and always will be the two planes of this energy, and it's on and off, it's life and death, it's yin and yang, it's light and dark, it's male, female, it's in and out. And these two energies, these two planes of dual energies have been playing forever on. And they're only discovering that it is one, but again and again and again and again. Which is us. We are the two from the one. Two eyes, two hemispheres of the brain. You are. You're the result. The dual result in a flesh, in the matter. It's you. The movie Alice in Wonderland was representing this very concept, this very idea. Whoever made the movie Alice in Wonderland beyond experienced a breakthrough on DMT. In fact, they were probably expert at DMT because Alice in Wonderland is so close to the truth. Most people don't even understand how close to the truth Alice in Wonderland is. She swears she knows who she is before she goes down that hole, and by the time she's done, she has no idea who the hell she was. We're all Alice tumbling down the hole asking who we are behind the mask. And it only gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it will never end. The deepness never ends. It's you and it's you and it's you and it's you and it's you again. It's just a matter of when you're going to admit it. When you're tired and when you've had enough playing. Otherwise, you're still falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and falling and asking questions. It isn't until you remember that you're not falling anymore. You're not tumbling down the rabbit hole. You remembered. Another thing that puts us into the constant or natural pursuit of enlightenment and answering questions is the fact that we're aware that everything is in constant deterioration. Everything is constantly rotting, deteriorating, crumbling. And so this naturally does kind of push some of us into a not panicked but more urgent quest for enlightenment, for who we are. And the more you fear death, the more urgent your questions get, the more urgent your search for truth becomes. And as I said, this is you simply stirring up the game for yourself, making it so difficult. I simply do this here because I enjoy people who are seeking the way out. I like being that voice for them. And for people who have done DMT, not everybody can put into words what they just experienced, what they just saw. And so I like to be the voice that helps connect the dots for them. But when I took DMT, it told me, everyone that you speak to is you. So you don't have to stress yourself about teaching anybody. You don't have to stress yourself that no one's listening or no one's hearing you. They already know. They know what you know. They're simply pretending. They're getting lost in the game, and they don't want to remember just yet. They're it. And so they're creating magical gods and goddesses and books with gods in them that are them playing and getting lost in their own game. They don't want to know. And as I said, that's just fine because they're playing the game. And so someone who knows will sit back and amusingly watch. Because I'm aware this is me. This is me creating a magnificent story and an illusion to comfort them. It's a different point of view when you see it this way. That's exactly what the Supreme Self would do. This Godhead would create micro beings, and those micro beings would create deities, gods, people above them, just as religions have, except they've taken it from inside us to outside us. And so everyone's taking these books as literal. But as I said, it's just fine. There is no rush to awaken anyone. Everyone already knows. They're simply pretending and getting lost in the game. Not everybody wants to know, needs to know. Everyone subconsciously already knows. Everyone is you. Everyone is your reflection. And not everybody understands what I mean when I say this. Everyone is a reflection of me, just as everyone is a reflection of you. And what this means is, we're all one collective consciousness behind the mask. Now some people will say, oh, well, if I'm the only one and these are all my reflections, that means they're all me and I'm the only one, and this is terrifying because I am the only one. I'm talking to myself, and some people choose to see it that way. But here's the thing. It would only be scary that way if everybody thought and spoke the same way, the same time, the same voice, the same everything. That would be terrifying. There'd be no point. But the fact that we're not all in sync, all thinking the same, perceiving the same, believing the same, is the game of individuality. Getting lost in the self. And we mustn't confuse the definition of what the ego is, because what the ego is simply, in the simplest terms, the ego is your understanding of yourself as the body and nothing more. That's the ego. The ego is the fact that you are convinced beyond a doubt you are just the body, the mask, the person in the mirror, and nothing more. And so by you identifying as the ego, your common sense is tricking you. You're forgetting who you are. But not deliberately, because you can't deliberately lie to yourself. You can't deliberately tell yourself you know that this is a lie, but you're going to believe it. And you inside, you know it's a lie, but you actually are consciously tricking yourself into thinking it's true. You couldn't consciously do that. It would have to subconsciously happen. So you can't trick yourself if you're consciously aware of it. And so that brings the point, you have to subconsciously trick yourself. And that's what we're doing. We're not aware we're being tricked. We're not aware that we're being fooled. We have a rigged common sense system and we're convinced beyond a doubt. We know who we are. And that's why I love asking people who you are. Who are you? Who do you identify as? Don't let me answer it. Let you answer it. Who do you identify as? Some may say their name. Some may say their job title. Some may say a loving father. That still doesn't answer it. Who are you? And you'll see they will get very frustrated and pissed because they're not getting the question of who they are. Not superficially. And that's what we don't ever get to the root of, is who we are. You're identifying as everything you're not. And a guru will only make you more aware of that. A guru will only bring that out and make you aware that you're either one, hiding and playing the game, or two, he'll bring to light you don't know who you are. But many of us don't think of this. You call us by our name and boom, we respond. We know who we are, of course. How couldn't we? And this was my idea. Years back, I would look in the mirror and say, this person just asked me if I knew who I am. That person's crazy. How could I not know who I am? Are you serious? But I didn't understand the question. I'm thinking pure logic. Of course I know who I am. I had no idea. But all it takes is someone who knows to get to the bottom of someone who doesn't know. And you'll see the veil is pulled back very quick. The veil is gone within minutes. Because there is no separate self. The idea of you that you think you are doesn't exist. It's not real. There is no separate self. You aren't separate from the universe. You keep finding or searching for your separate self, separate from the universe, you'll never find it. Search for your mind separate from the universe. It isn't there. It's a part of the illusion. You're the avatar. Which is the ego. But you're also it. You're the works, the universe, you're everything. So there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off when you awaken. Yes, you lose the ego. Everything you once knew is gone. Yeah, okay, so the ego dies. I'm no longer Tyler. Okay. But you become immortal through knowledge, and I just posted a status about this. This is how the devil, Satan, this is how the devil was kicked out of heaven. The devil began as an angel. Okay, so I'm going to metaphorically break this down for you. The devil began as an angel, which means this is the returning of one. Because remember, God and the devil are one being, just as the yin and the yang are one. The light and dark principle are one. Man and God are one. The two are always one. That's what you find. Okay, so the devil and the God are one being, right? So the devil began as an angel with God, right? They were one being. Which you can say, let's just say, for example, this point right here, let's just ignore all of this right here. We're going to ignore all of this. All there is in existence is this one point, and this one point is God and the devil. Let's just say, for the hell of it, right? This point is the dual energy, the God and the devil, but it's as one right now. So, the devil was kicked out of heaven, meaning the line comes out to the circle, meaning the devil was kicked out of heaven, meaning the devil is becoming man. And this is why the devil lives on earth, right? Satan lives on earth, because the devil, the Godhead, is kicked out of heaven, which means from knowing he is it to not knowing, becoming man. And because when we're birthed, we're becoming man. We're unaware that we're it. So Satan was kicked out, or the devil, whatever the hell you want to call him. People have so many names for this guy, you know, this imaginary guy here. So the devil was kicked out here from the supreme self of knowing that it is it, the whole, out into earth as man. And so the devil was kicked out and birthed into man. Enoch, however, Enoch became Metatron, and this is man becoming immortal, God or angel, if you will. Enoch became Metatron through knowledge, realization, because everyone asks, well, how did Enoch become an angel? How did Enoch become a god? It wasn't literal, it was metaphoric. Enoch is just like me, my understanding, my name is Tyler. So that's who I would identify as, that's who Enoch would identify as. Enoch and Tyler are one, they're an ego. That's our idea of who we were, an ego. So it's when you kill that ego and realize who you are behind the mask that you become infinite through knowledge. Because you're dropping the ego, which is temporary, which is the veil you're hiding behind. So Enoch became immortal and became in turn Metatron, immortal and angel. Through knowledge, not literally. Right? And that's one of the biggest, probably I would say, is injustices. Is most of the Bible, if not all of it, because I haven't fully read the damn thing, but it's all metaphoric. And there's people that read this beyond a doubt convinced that they're reading it word for word as truth. What they don't realize is it's coded, it's encrypted, it's metaphorically spoken through to code it. So the average person couldn't read it and know exactly what they were talking about. It's written in metaphoric code for the masses to take it literal. Because you hear something about a talking snake and all this stuff and you're like, whoa. What type of stuff were they doing back then? What was going on back then? Wow, we don't have talking snakes now, and there's so many things in the book that aren't obviously incorrect, are obviously far off. And one can easily prove, I'm not trying to make this a Bible session, but one can easily prove that it's all metaphorics. This is my favorite one right here. I say this all the time, but if you picture a little ladder right here, The falling of man is from this dot. As I said, the dot is the center, the Godhead, the Supreme Head, the one, the energy that's creating everything. This is the falling of man coming out into the circle, birthed out into matter, into a shape, into a form, as man in the skin. So this was the falling of man. And you going back into that point during death is the ascending of Jacob's ladder. Exactly. The falling of man, ascending of Jacob's ladder. So you're diverging out and converging back into the self. So that's why I say suicide is not the way out. You come out as this projected illusion, a dream, and let's say you kill yourself, you're returning back to yourself. There is no escape. There's nowhere you can run. There's nothing to cling on to. There's nothing to hold on to. And that's why I tell people, let go. There's nothing to hold on to. There is nothing you can do. Creation will always be. There is no way to beat reincarnation. You're fighting yourself. You don't know who you are. Creation will always be. Here's a good one. I took this picture of Phi and I overlaid a human eyeball with it. And so that's a human eye overlaid with Phi. And Phi is a fractal pattern. It just repeats itself to infinity. Which is what this universe is. It's a vortex expanding outward, unrolling. From the void, the point. And you notice the human eye, the black in the center, is the void, the point. And there's the point again. In the spider web, there's the point. The point of creation is in all things. From micro to macro. Here's the 7 days of creation in the Bible. The metaphoric 7 days of creation. Till you get the flower of life. There's old ancient calendar showing you a wheel with basically a point, a center. There's Tesla, one of the greatest minds, demonstrating the wheel works and the power behind the point. And this is what the Indians called the feathered sun. See, it's got lines pointing out in red toward the circumference, and then lines pointing in toward the center point. So it's got convergent and diverging forces, in and out, just like our lungs, in and out. And this feathered sun is basically what the Germans call the black sun. It's the same thing, except this one is a little more old from what I've found. But the Native Americans believed in the black sun, the void, just like the Pythagoreans talked about the void, and Earth unrolling from a void. That's exactly what the Indians projected too. A center point expanding out, but yet converging in at the same time. Two forces in and out from a center point. And it always forms a sphere, a wheel. Three-dimensional. Because again, we have to feature in dimension with creation. We have to feature in dimension with creation, yeah? And I love my Flat Earth community because they're asking questions and they're, you know, trying to get to the answers, but the truth of it is there is no scientific evidence to break down a flat torus field. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as something being a flat and three-dimensional object at the same time either. Because a lot of them say, well, it's hollow, but it's flat, but it's round, and it's this at the same time. It's absurd. I mean, how much more are you going to try and force things into your model of it being flat? It's not flat. It can't be flat. I'll explain why. When you break down these two pictures here, showing you field theory 101. This little orange, or this greenish looking blue disc right here, I don't know if you can see that. That bluish disc right here, that's flat right there. This is where flat earthers say they live, on the flat part of a torus field. Okay? So what this is right here is this is the centripetal dielectric movement and zone right here. Centripetal dielectric movement and zone. Centripetal means in, so everything is converging inward, and that breaks it down right here. This is your dielectric plate right here. This greenish, bluish looking flat plate right here is this yellow right here. This is what you're seeing right here. And this is what it says. The dielectric field in a magnet, it's charged, inertial, counter space, and destroy space, centripetal. So everything is centripetal. It's converging in on the center point. It's converging in on the center point. On the center point. On the center. Center. Center is the point of creation. Center. So everything's converging in at this center point, which is the dielectric field. It's destroying space, meaning, and this is where they say they live. So everything is sucking in. You can take your idea of a black hole, and this is exactly what you would get. You understand? So what this is, where they say they live, is in a chaotic state of a black hole, of nothingness. Nothing exists here. This is formless energy before it's cast out and expressed through magnetism, because that's what this part of the field is, and I'll explain this part. But this disk here is this yellow part, the dielectric field. Convergent, centripetal, and so it's everything sucking in that field in. And then you have the yellow and the green force, which is magnetism, pushing out of this magnetic field. And magnetism is the out force. It's what gives everything in the universe volume, definition, mass. It's what makes you have a shape. And this is why I say you have to feature in dimension when you talk about creation. And when you talk about field theory and you're breaking down a torus field and you're not featuring in dimension, then it shows you don't understand fully. But what the magnetic field does in the dielectric field is it expands outward to create. And so what it says here is radiation, dielectric field, polarization. It creates polarization and creates space. It's discharging. All matter mass is solely due to magnetism, naturally and logically so. And these are both from Ken Wheeler. If anyone wants to look these two up, Ken Wheeler is the king of magnetism. And there's plenty of flat earthers that use Ken Wheeler, as ironic as it is, they use Ken Wheeler as to justify the flat model. And again, you're using words without knowing the meanings of them, without understanding the actual science behind them. And I don't mean to pick on anyone, but I want people to be smart, to not be ignorant. I want people to have the truth. If you really want the truth is staring at you. And it's not for me to decide, it's for you. It's evident, it's apparent, it's throughout every single picture. They're all connected. Everything. Because it is connected, we're all one. And that's what this shows. As I said, I'm trying to take the idea of the universe and bring it back to one. Match spirituality to science for once. Because I know there's been plenty of philosophers and plenty of people out there who have been trying to bring spirituality and science into one. But even Alan Watts, my hero, someone I've looked up to since a kid, Alan Watts, even he had the understanding of this universe, which puts us outside of a ball. And I'm trying to give people a different avenue, a different idea. I'm not trying to force it. But as great as Alan Watts was, even he wasn't thinking in this way. Not that it anything, I'm discrediting them or anything, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to take this a step further, and to me it's very apparent that this is the truth. We already know NASA's photoshopping all their pictures, we already know we're being lied to on a massive scale, and we have to start getting to the root questions of why. Why are we being lied to? And when you get to the bottom of it, if you don't know what you're living in, from micro to macro, it won't match. You won't know who the self is. And this is why the idea of infinite space and all this stuff seems weird, seems scary. They created infinite space to get rid of and completely remove source. That's what they've done. Space is infinite now because we've been shot out of a big explosion and the source to that explosion is nowhere to be found. Absolutely nowhere. But what you find is creation isn't all chaos. There's order to creation because creation is a fractal. It repeats. It's organized. The process of life and death is chaotic, but the method to creation is stable, consistent. If it applies to the micro, it applies to the macro, to all things. It's not applying to this for one and this to another. If it applies to the micro, it applies to the macro, and this is how we can slowly remember who we are again. Studying the universe and getting to the bottom of NASA's lies. They're getting paid over $20 billion annually, and they're justifying the fact that they're giving us computer-generated CGI images, and it's not even a rumor. If you go on NASA, they openly tell you they're for $20 billion, they're giving you Photoshop, and we're accepting it as real. So it sounds to me like some people are a little out of whack, and not the system. The system will always be corrupt. That's one thing we must accept. System will always be corrupt as long as we have a system in place. But so long as it's being this obvious that we're being lied to, so long as it's this obvious, it's our negligence that we're buying into it, that we're still ignorant, negligent, don't know. And it's partly not our fault because we're being pushed into this. We're being pushed into the TVs, into the programs, into the games, into technology. Anything to put your mind on something of non-importance. Anything to put your mind into something that means nothing. I mean, even the meaning to life itself is nothing, no thing, but we bring it meaning. We give it meaning. And when you have this understanding of the universe, it seems so small. It seems so connected. It seems like every dot is connected. It seems like everything you once knew is returned and back to itself. It's back to normal. It makes sense. It fits. One thing that never made sense to me was looking out into space and thinking this is infinite, and we were shot out of somewhere that came from nowhere, that came from nothing. We have no idea where the source is that we were shot out of. But most ironically, NASA releases a picture of our entire universe in one picture, and this is what they give us. A wheel, a circle, and I always say this because where you have space, you must have an enclosed object. I said this in my last live. For you to have a universe that's infinite and no edge, no enclosed casing to it, is like you trying to put a hammer into an air, or hammer a nail into air. It falls. Me trying to stick that pen through the air, it falls. You have to have confined space for things to stay put, for there to be pressure. So it's very ironic that this is an actual photo from NASA of our entire universe, and what you see is that there is also a void here in the center. This is from NASA. There is a black void here in the center, and that black void looks like the pupil in your eye. And this is what they're giving us right here. Because we know we didn't take this picture. How did we get far enough to take all this? How do we know that these are the billions of galaxies that are out there? We don't, and this is why I said, by them creating infinite space, they've created billions of possibilities such as this right here. Instead of you seeing the apparent and the obvious, I see my eye when I look at this. The black is always in the center, from micro to macro. The black is in the center. There's your void in space. There's your void in space. Right there, you see their little circle? And all these galaxies are circling around it, so it appears. Yep, there's your void in space. There's your void in space. There's your void in space. See, space is inside. And you know what this looks like? This looks like your two eyes. Your little two pupils right there. And then the outside, the coloring of your eye. And these are the two hemispheres of the Earth. Just as the Our stars are broken into two hemispheres. Our constellation are broken into two hemispheres. And isn't that ironic? When you have this understanding of the Earth, it's broken into two hemispheres. Isn't that ironic? It's the same. And then this also shows you the point. All things revolve around a wheel. The moon phases, a compass, a clock, a magnetic field creates a sphere, as above, so below. All things revolve around a point in a sphere or wheel dynamic. All things. Even the human body. We fit perfectly into a sphere, from micro to macro, because you are the macro. There's Tesla's plasma ball. The plasma ball is most ironic with this model right here. Because what you find with a plasma ball is these multiple beams of light are simply an illusion from this one light source at the center. All these little beams are simply an illusion. They're not there. They're reflecting this one light source out, and this is the exact idea of a perception, individualism. All of us are these little streams of light projected from the source, from the point. And this is our model as taught to our children in school. And as you see, this model looks the very same as this model, as does this model from NASA. This is from NASA, and this is from NASA, but I mean, this is what's in our children's textbooks. And this is the same. They got the central sun idea from the central void. The central void. See, the sun rotates around this inner sphere, around it. And that's where you get the central sun from. You see, it still fits. That's where they got the central sun from. But if you look up in ancient times, there were two suns on record. There was a sun called the golden sun, which is this yellow sun we see in the sky, and there was a second sun called the black sun that was invisible to the naked eye. The golden sun was the illusion sun, was the fake sun, reflecting the black sun, just as I said here. You have one light source giving the illusion of many. And so the moon and the sun are reflecting one light source, and that's the black sun. Not the golden sun. You can look that up in history. The golden sun and the black sun. We think Jesus is sun worship. Our idea of sun worship is the golden sun. That's not sun worship. That's not the sun they're worshiping. They're worshiping the black sun, the void in space. The prima materia, the creation and the starting of all things, which is that point. See, and this is why the group I'm in is called Electric Universe, because it's an electric universe, just like an alternator. You got your rotor and your stator. See that? Your rotor is what rotates, which is your rotor is space inside. The Earth is not moving. The Earth is not rotating. The rotor is space, which is inside the Earth, and that's what's rotating. And then you've got your stator, which is Earth on the outside. Your stationary stator, which stays still, and it's this inside that rotates. And you see the person standing inside the sphere, because this is where we live, we're inside. And this right here is a magnetic field under a ferrocell. This right here is a ring magnet right here. And what you're seeing inside of that ring magnet is the point, is convergence. These are the two hemispheres of a magnet. The Maori tribe, their face paint resembles the plane of inertia, and then the two sides the two hemispheres, from micro to macro. I'm just going to show it this way. It'll be easier. And this is how light propagates inside the Earth. This is German, but this is the black sun right there. As I said, that's the black sun, which the golden sun and the moon are reflecting, and this is the moon phases that you see right here. These are the moon phases. Down there's your new moon. Up top, full moon. But as you see, these wave patterns, these line patterns, that's the propagation of light. Light naturally bends around a magnetic pattern. And this is what I proved here in a ferrocell. Well, I wasn't the first one to prove it, but through the picture. Credits to Ken Wheeler on the ferrocell. He's not the one who invented it, but he's the one who's made it damn popular. And as you can see, that is a hypertrochoid pattern. And the hypertrochoid pattern, which is from a magnet, is the Fibonacci pattern right there. So the Fibonacci pattern and this electromagnetic pattern is showing you that all light does bend, in fact, around a center point. Around this center point is where the light is bending around. And what are you seeing here is light being bent around that center point. Around the center point. It's bending. And that's why it's in all things. We are reflections of the macro. Here's more. You see that center dot? Look at that center point right there. That's invisible to the naked eye, that little point. But that little point is what's influencing this light. That point that's invisible to the naked eye. And here's more in German, but it's showing again. Space inside, the light bends around. See the constellations on the inside? It's showing you space is inside. And the light's bending around as so. Just as you see here. Which is seen like this. When you look up at the stars, at the sky, you're seeing your horizon as this yellow line, let's say. It's bent. You're seeing a curved, bent line, but it's being compressed into a straight line, which is a horizon, flat. But what we don't understand is the curvature of light, that phenomenon is something beyond what our eye is taking in. We're not taking in the factor of the curvature of light. Especially on a much grander scale. You can picture this being small. Imagine this on a much larger, much more powerful scale. This is merely a small representation. And as you can see here, again, the Fibonacci pattern, the hypertrochoid pattern, and then this is our human hearing, the human eardrum. Isn't that pattern beautiful? And that's why I say fractals repeat throughout nature, throughout creation. There is a code to creation, and if it applies to the macro, it applies to the micro. There's your hearing, and that's at what type of hertz level you'll hear. There's the function of the stars. This flat line right here is what's called the plane of inertia. Plane of inertia, which is this right here. Dielectric plane of inertia going, you notice how it's going straight across, and you notice how these lines are bent this way, while these lines are bent the quite opposite way. And that's where you get as above, so below. And then you've got a perfectly straight line in between. And so this is your plane of inertia, your straight line. And then this is why stars on one side of the hemisphere rotate this way, while stars on this hemisphere rotate the opposite way. And this is how they appear. In the north, they're going clockwise, south counterclockwise. And the north, water drains clockwise, and the south, water drains counterclockwise. And no one can figure out why. Well, it's as simple as this. As I said, you have to picture this phenomenon on a much larger scale. And it's apparent, very apparent. That's the center equator where you're seeing the stars straight. The plane of inertia, straight. From micro to macro. So if it applies to the micro, it applies to the macro. You have a pineal gland between your two eyes. There is a celestial sphere between the two hemispheres of the earth. So you see the duality and then the one. The duality and then the one. Above, below, sun, moon, male, female, positive, negative, light, dark, convergent, divergent. From micro to macro. The two are one. There's the dielectric plane of inertia, the line of incommensurability, and as above, so below. Again, another code to creation. That's literally what that means, right there. There's the color spectrum according to wavelength. That's why I tell people this vessel, this body, this organism is the only way to experience energy. What you're seeing, the visible light you're taking in, is a simple wavelength. The only way to experience energy, formless energy, is through a vessel, through a character, through a being. Some of us think of living and experiencing this body as a trap, a prison, and you haven't thought this through. Because there is no other way to experience energy besides creation, and we're doing it. We're experiencing. Only you want to escape, because you feel there's a way out. This right here was a discovery of mine right here, and I'm very, very proud of this one. This one kind of blew my mind. That's a picture of the sun radiating the color spectrum in the same order as this magnet I put on my ferrocell. So that right there that you're seeing is the giant magnet. And then those streams of light are radiating off of that magnet. That's the field of the magnet. But it also gave you the color spectrum in the same order that the sun put it out. And that's what it's showing you, is radiation. That's what that is. Radiation. Radiation. From micro to macro. And this right here you will not see anywhere else. These two pictures right here you will not see anywhere else. Only one more thing to show here. And this is the flat earth map right here. The flat earth map. But this is a patented time chart. And this is something flat earthers don't want to talk about. But the flat earth map is nothing but a time chart. And it has a patent number and everything. A. Gleason time chart. Patented May 23rd, 1893. New standard map of the world, longitude and time calculator. That's all this was. This is not a flat earth map. This is a time calculator. This is not a flat earth map. This is not the government showing us that the earth is flat. This is them taking a top-down view of our earth in a three-dimensional picture. Or a two-dimensional picture, sorry. But what they're doing, it's flat because they took a three-dimensional ball and they took a picture of it, which is a two-dimensional paper. So of course they can't show you the dimension of it, but they divided this three-dimensional ball into 24 sections because there's 24 hours in a day. And that's what that time chart represents. It's not a map. It never was a map. Only the flat earth community presented it as a map. It's a time chart, a patented time chart from the actual person that made it. And as I said, it was meant for sailors. So they took our sphere, Earth, they took a top-down view of it, and they compressed the continents out flat, as if you were looking top-down view of the Earth. And it was divided into 24 sections because there's 24 hours in a day. So wherever you were at, it was meant for sailors. You could look wherever you were at and know exactly what time it was because it was a time chart. It was meant for sailors. It wasn't meant to be a map, ever. And that shows how far I've come. Because 3 years ago, I was posting the map. I had the map as my profile picture. But that shows you, if you lust for truth, if you seek for truth, if you're hungry for truth, if you want the truth, then it's no problem to admit where you're wrong, to admit that you were wrong, to move on. Accept you were wrong and move on. This video is like an hour longer than I wanted it to be, and I'm sorry. Once I get to talking, I can talk for hours. Because I've gotten so far off topic by now, it's like not even funny. I'm an hour off of topic. Very sorry for that. I'm gonna end the live because I'm way too off topic. I'm going in too many directions right now, but I've covered a lot of stuff. The basis of this video, if anyone is going to rewatch it, is stop trying to overthink yourself. Stop trying to beat the game. Stop trying to propose the fact that you have to do anything at all. You're creating this idea in your head that you must obtain this magnificent state of consciousness or this grand enlightenment or this great knowledge, and then what? What do you do once you know? What do you do with yourself once you know? There is nothing you can do is basically the answer. There's nothing to hold on to. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing you can do. This is all out of your control. You're meant to simply live, to be. I am that I am. We shouldn't complicate it, and we shouldn't stir up our miseries and our troubles and our anxieties and our worries, because it's all us. It's all we're doing to ourselves is we're creating terrors for our own self so we can indulge in. Just even and I've said this before, but even a child is viewing the world, the universe, for exactly what it is, magic. This is why you can put a child in a room with nothing but toys, and they'll create a magical fantasy of a world with these toys. See, we need gadgets, and we need games, and we need video games, and we need cars, and we need this, and we need that, and then we just need a little bit more, and a little bit more, and more, and more, and more is never enough. You see, but a child can be put in a room with just toys. And through their mind, they will be satisfied. They will create the most magic and magnificent story you'll ever have heard. And you'll be like, wow, how? So creative. Or cute. Kids' mind is pure. To create, to explore, to ponder, to get lost in, to have fun. To laugh and to dance for absolutely no reason, but because you're consciously alive. For you being conscious at all is for you to just dance for absolutely no reason. Along with everything that's around you dancing at the same vibration. The trees, the sky, it's all dancing. Children are viewing the earth as pure before adulthood, before the freaking money, before all the non-important materials and ideals and principles are beaten into us. Kids are great because kids remind us that we're taking it all too serious. Kids are a joy. Great. Because they allow you to look at them and say, wow, they're so joyous, they're so happy, for no reason. No reason whatsoever. They don't even know what they're going to be doing this afternoon, because you're the parent, you control them, but they're still dancing and excited for this afternoon. They're living every single day as if it was a weekend. However, as an adult, we live every week, Monday through Friday. We're not living. We're trying to get by through the week so we can live for the weekend. A child lives every day as a weekend. Every moment. Because it's magic. They're seeing it for exactly what it is. We neglect it. We neglect consciousness. We neglect it. We turn this into a prison, into a trap, through the mind. You feel you're enslaved here because that's what you're wanting to be. You're making it that. You're making it dark. If you tell yourself that being born in this skin was a trap or a prison, and that you want to return somewhere, it's a trap. It's a prison. It's hell. But remember, you're creating that through the state of mind you're choosing. Through what you tell yourself. Again, I'm getting sidetracked. I have to end this video. But, yeah, the gist of this video is you can't overthink yourself. You can't, you'll persist in your own illusions to the point of insanity, to the point to where you'll, like I said, you'll either have to admit you're lying to yourself, or you'll just suddenly awaken and you'll get it. That you're it. But so long as you're in competition, and Alan Watts has said this before, but so long as you're in competition or trying to one-up the universe shows that you don't understand you're it. You are the behind creation. You are what created you here. And so you're trying to beat reincarnation, is trying to beat your supreme self. Doesn't happen. Creation will always be. Just as death will always be. The creation comes from death, and death comes from creation. That's the on and off, the yin and the yang. Just as where you have good, you have bad. Where you have bad, you have good. So to all the empaths out there, don't stress yourself over there always being bad. There will always exist bad. It's beyond your control. The bad will exist where there's good. In fact, where you have the most love, there's going to be hate. It's the yin and the yang, and it naturally occurs. The two will always play together. And as I said, this is what religious people have a hard time accepting, is that God and the devil are one being. Or one. Just one. Not even a being. Just one. That the good and the bad are one energy, one hand, one playing. Some people like to think of the divine as just love, or just happiness, just glorious. It would be nice, but it's also predictable. And even too much of one thing is insanity. That would be insane, to walk down the street every day and have everyone with a fake smile, just everyone's smiling for no reason and just happy and happy, 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 happy. You could predict every single day. That's insanity itself. The two planes of energy do not fail. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you playing. It keeps the game unpredictable. And it sounds bad to say, but there must exist bad where there's good, and you must embrace the two as one. You must embrace them equally. We're only under the illusion to embrace the happiness and terrify the shame the pain. You embrace them both the same because you're having the human experience. You're getting lost in yourself. You're becoming aware of what it feels and or what it is to feel and to be. And so there is no way to win. There is no way to beat it. You simply awaken and come to the realization and finally admit to yourself. But I'll end it with that. And I'll pose a question too, for you to look into the mirror and just simply ask yourself, who am I? And as I said, only you know. Only you know whether you're pretending or whether you're subconsciously trying to flirt with the idea of awakening, or whether you seriously want to awaken, or whether you know. Whatever. Only you know, but my point is ask yourself, go into the mirror and ask yourself, who am I? And you define who you are. But when you get to the bottom, the root of that answer, you should find that you're every single thing, it. And that's what's so ironic, is you're everything and nothing at one time, but not nothing, no thing. You're everything and no thing at one time. And it's so ironic because it's a contradiction. How can you be everything and no thing or nothing at one time? Well, figure it out. That's what you are. You're it. You're he, she, it coming to life. It, everything. There is no way out. There is no escape. Suicide's not the way out. You'll find yourself again. And that's why some people call this insanity. That's why they say we're all mad here in Alice in Wonderland. Because we are. We're all mad here. We're all gone mad. We're all falling down the hole. No control of it. We're just simply aware. But you can make it hell or you can make it heaven along the way.